All right, What's on Tap is brought to you by Bud Light.
Faith in God, faith in me.
The official beer sponsor of the NFL. Here's the matchups with the highest point totals going into the weekend. Sundays are easy to enjoy when they are full of football and the fridge is filled with beer. Here's the games we're locking in on as we start with, Panthers at Commanders. Commanders favored by 8 points. The point total in this is 51.5. Brian Robinson, Matthew, has had 2 limited practices this week. If he's back, is Austin Eckler still a start?
I think he's a viable flex there. You know, he's had double-digit fantasy points in every game he's played so far this year. He's averaging over 70 yards from scrimmage per game. Carolina, by the way, has allowed multiple touchdowns. Let me rephrase. They've allowed touchdowns to multiple running backs in 4 of their 6 games, meaning more than one running back has scored in a game against the Panthers, so if you're like, well, but Brian Robinson's going to get in, well, Austin Eckler could also get in. By the way, cut to Jeremy McNichols having like 3. But no team in the NFL has allowed more fantasy points to opposing running backs than your Carolina Panthers. Keep pounding. That's what Cliff Kingsbury is going to say to his running backs. Keep pounding into the offense, into their line, into their end zone. We're going to be pounding our way into pay dirt against Carolina.
Got to win this one, Matthew.
This is a big win.
Minus 410 money line, 8-point favorites.
Yeah.
Can't blow this game.
No, we can't.
Yeah, got to get to 5-2.
This is one that I'm a little nervous about.
The banana skin.
Yeah, because they're
They'll
like,
be the old
we
Commanders.
lost to Baltimore, but whatever, we got this. No. You don't want them to, suddenly take the foot off the gas. I don't think Dan Quinn will let them.
No, I agree. I think they win comfortably.
All right, we move over to Seahawks at Atlanta. The Falcons are favored by 3 points in this game. The over-under, another big one, 51 points here as we show all the fantasy-relevant players on the board. And it's been an interesting quote-worthy week for Kirk Cousins, who's been lighting it up. Listen to Kirk Cousins on, and I quote, taking over traps.
I love it. I used to say when I was in college, I said there's no better feeling as a college player playing for Michigan State than to be in the big house in Michigan and hearing the chant, go green, go white. My teammate used to say, walk into your trap, take over your trap, was the line he would say. And so that's kind of what it is.
So, coming off a quiet week for Kirk Cousins, Matthew, but before that, he obviously went nuclear. Do you go back to him? Where does he stack up right now for your rankings?
I have a QB7, right? I mean, Falcons have the second highest implied team total for this week. Each of the last 3 quarterbacks to face the Seattle Seahawks have scored at least 22 fantasy points. That includes luminaries like Brock Purdy, but also Jared Goff and Daniel Jones. So it's a nice matchup here for the known voice texter, Kirk Cousins. Not sure what was going on with the beanie look in the press conference right there, but friend of the podcast, Detective Drake London, says him and Kirk are locked in. They're in lockstep, and that should continue this week against Seattle, as over the last 3 games, the Seahawks allow a league-high 10 yards per pass attempt. So Kirk should have a clean pocket and should be able to move the ball effectively against Seattle.
Yeah, I think if people haven't been paying super close attention, they might not have realized that Drake London is just a legit top 5 wide receiver now. He's getting massive target rates in terms of first read target share. He's among the league leaders. Obviously, he has the pedigree, top 10 pick as the first wide receiver taken in that loaded draft of receivers. He's being used in that kind of Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua type of role in the Zach Robinson offense. So, yeah, he is obviously a monster. He's set at 73.5 receiving yards. I'm going to guess that's the highest total he's ever been set at in his career. The running back situation for Atlanta is still fascinating.
So I wanted to ask you about, do you think this is sustainable with Algier being so viable, even with a true RB1 and Bijan there?
I think this is the status quo. I think the idea that Bijan was going to take over the backfield, and there was reason to believe that in the preseason, given it felt logical, and he had 18 carries to Algier's 3 in week 1. But I think that Algier is just too good, and he's too beloved by this coaching staff as he was the previous one. And I think the idea is that a full of energy Tyler Algier, who is fresh, is more useful to the offense than a workhorse Bijan Robinson, who is getting worn down with carries over and over again. And I think this is just going to be how it is going forward, where it's going to be, look, I think Bijan is going to out-carry Algier, certainly, and it's not going to be like last week, where it was basically an even split. But I think the idea that Bijan Robinson is going to be 85% of the snaps, that's just not reality.
Algier is going to continue to get enough work to be flex viable in most weeks.
Yep, he said it he's projected for 40 rushing yards.
He just is. And again, we sort of redo this calculation, but I think that if you started a draft today, Breece Hall goes over Bijan Robinson. That was sort of a question a week ago, 2 weeks ago, but this new look offense, you feel a little bit better about Breece Hall than you do Bijan, and you're still taking Derrick Henry and I would argue Kyron Williams over those guys, in addition to a few others as well.
I think there's a lot of guys. Like, is J.K. Dobbins like a hugely worse option than Bijan Robinson? J.K. Dobbins got 25 carries last week. And there's no one else in that backfield. Yeah,
I mean it's right there. It's a conversation, right? I mean, you're still, even after last week, you're still taking Saquon, obviously.
Yep. Right.
Over.
I'm definitely taking Kyron Williams.
Yeah. I think you make an argument Joe Mixon over him, back healthy in terms of workload.
Banged up, he's been great when he plays. So, Lions-Vikings, our last game.
In this game, I'd rather Ken Walker than Bijan, for sure.
The Vikings favored by 1.5. They're home against the Lions. The point total in this one is 50.5, and much like the Falcons, the Lions have a dynamic running back duo in Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, and we got to hear from their running backs coach and assistant coach of the Lions, Scotty Montgomery, on the duo's nicknames. Take a listen.
Inside of our room, just really excited, our guys, Sonic and Knuckles. It's official now, right? I've been warned that that's what they want to be called. And of course I know about it because I have children, right? So Sonic and Knuckles, I think it works well. They love it. So I'm gonna run with it.
You're not offended that PB&J didn't stick?
Well, I knew that PB&J was not gonna be a nickname. It was more of a collection of how great they could be together. The PB&J, I told you guys from the get-go, nobody wanted to be known as Jelly. That was probably the biggest deal. No one wanted to be known as Jelly.
Jay, this duo has a great nickname in Sonic and Knuckles, and they've been awesome all season. But they run into a Minnesota defense that is number 2 against the run
Before
right
we go
now.
there for a second, we're just curious, because here's some of the other nicknames they could have chosen from. Sonic is the star. Okay, we get that. But he's got friends. Knuckles is one of his friends, but so is Cream, Chip, Blaze, Tails, and Princess Elise. Why couldn't it have been Sonic and Princess Elise as a nickname?
It has to be Knuckles.
But what about Sonic and Cream?
I don't know if David Montgomery preferred that to Knuckles.
Yeah, Knuckles or Creams. These are all. What about Dr. Eggman?
Doesn't feel like it. Off the tongue.
I feel like that should be a nickname for me. Dr. Eggman, based on my unfortunate shaped head.
Yeah, you can play.
Yeah.
It's certainly more fitting for you than perhaps David Montgomery.
I don't know. I producers in my ears ask about this. Look, all I know is I Googled Sonic character names, and this is what came up. And if you can't trust Wikipedia, who on the internet can you trust?
Knuckles is more relevant.
I'm not familiar with these characters. Hey,
you will be soon. You have kids.
You will be soon. You have kids.
Yeah, that's true.
Blaze is a cat, by the way.
Yes, Bubble Guppy's on the way out. Sonic coming in.
Bubble Guppies isn't terrible, by the way. As kids shows go,
it's not great.
Have you? They're all made for 3-year-olds. You understand that? But like
better than Coco Melon.
Yes, exactly.
Worse than Blippi for mine. That's where I'd have it in the power rankings.
I totally disagree.
Give
me Bubble Guppies over Blippi all day, every day.
Okay. Yeah.
I've watched a lot of children's programming in my time with my daughters. You know what I mean? So I have strong opinions about all of this. Yeah. Everything's better than Caillou.
Yes. I'm a big Encanto guy at the moment. I know it's not a TV show, but we watch it so much over and over again that it effectively is a TV show.
Encanto is terrific, although the mom is the bad guy. By the way, the mom is the most evil character in Encanto. Yeah. And she's not supposed to be. But she is.
Grandma?
Huh? The grandma, whoever, the one that with the spell.
The mom is kind of a nothing character.
Yeah, the grandma.
Yep.
The grandma,
yep.
you know.
Yeah, no. Coco and Encanto.
What they do to Bruno is outrageous.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
What they do at Bruno, they should all be locked up.
Yes.
I'll just say that. Another language.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. You know who has the higher rushing total between David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs on DraftKings? Neither of them. They have the exact same one at 50.5. So that's where this backfield is at the moment. Montgomery more likely to get in the end zone. Jahmyr Gibbs more likely to give you receiving value. So it's a nice little 1-2 Sonic and Knuckles tandem they've got there.
Both guys usually inside my top 10, but they're both outside. They're just barely inside my top 20. You're starting Gibbs and Montgomery if you have them, obviously, and I prefer Montgomery to Gibbs just because he's got more touchdown equity. He's scored in every single game this year. But it's worth noting, Vikings allow the second fewest fantasy points per game to opposing running backs, the fourth fewest rush yards per game to running backs. They've given up only one rushing touchdown this entire year, and they allow the lowest catch rate to opposing running backs as well. So this is the toughest test I think that the Lions running backs will face this year. They've had 2 weeks to prepare, Minnesota has, for this rushing attack. So, again, you're starting Montgomery and Gibbs if you have them, but there's a reason why they're inside my top 20 barely versus inside my top 10, I would lower expectations.
Okay.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest RotoWorld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.